Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Tuesday, September 9th, Texas A&M week, Notre Dame's home opener. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Marcus Freeman's comments from yesterday in the press conference, just some of the topics that generated conversation on our message board. I thought it'd be a good idea to bring it here, have some discussion about tackling, about offensive line, about preparation, RPOs, getting Jeremiyah Love more involved in the passing game and in the running game. Basically them kind of deciding, hey, we're just going to call straight runs for Jeremiyah Love and not leave it up to RPOs. We'll talk about that. And then Jamie's Texas A&M scouting report is out, right? So check it out on IrishSportsDaily.com. He always does the best job, I think, on the beat of scouting the opponent. So yeah, check it out. That's going to be our show today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you like what you hear, of course, hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know whenever it is we are going live or releasing a video. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang, and Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. As Notre Dame reloads for the season, now's the time to refresh your wardrobe and add the perfect suit, sport coat, tuxedo, or casual jacket for fall. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship for the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka, book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com and step into confidence with Chicago's finest. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. Jamie, I've got some news on the ESQ front. I am wearing the ESQ performance tee right now. Goss sent it over to me. I feel good. I feel fantastic. Look, this is a nice t-shirt. And I'll tell you what, sometimes people have these like casual days or whatever at work, but like you don't want to be like a bum. Like there's t-shirts, and then like when people say performance t-shirts, it's like this is the type of shirt that you could wear it to your office and people will still take you seriously. But you're comfortable in a t-shirt, right? So that's what you're going for, right? So people always look at a t-shirt like, oh, it's expensive. It's like, yeah, but it's if you can wear it to work, like the value is so much higher. If you think of it in terms of value, then it's like, oh, okay, like this is really cooking. So I got the navy. I feel good. I feel fresh. So head over to esqclothing.com, get their performance tees. Jamie, yesterday, Marcus Freeman met with the media for the first time since the loss to Miami, or at least other than the post-game press conference. I thought he had kind of the vibe on, like, he didn't want to talk. I don't think he really wanted to, like, talk about at all about the game or kind of anything. Like, you can kind of tell when he's ready to engage, and you can kind of tell when it's like, look, I'm doing a press conference. I don't really want to get into this stuff because it's been a week since the game. A week later,
A&M.
Yeah, he's on A&M. I don't want to talk about Miami anymore. Like, it's old news. Like, they've gone over everything. They've had a bunch of practices. I think that's what kind of led to a lot of the comments yesterday. Like, he said the word intentional, I think 5 or 6 times. So, like, you could kind of tell, like, he wasn't really into it. And it leads to the first topic I want to talk about in terms of the tackling. People noticed the tackling, and he mentioned in his comments about the live tackling. And I kind of want to get your thought on it. And, we can talk about if this is a big deal or not a big deal. He's talking about, let me find the exact quote, missed tackles. We can't go live tackling just for the safety of our team, but we have to be intentional about finding ways to tackle different equipment, maybe even people to the ground defensively. That was something that we were intentional about last week. And then when you thud, you got to thud, right? Thudding means you stop the ball carrier's feet. That doesn't mean you take them to the ground, but you've got to stop their momentum before you let them go. And that's something we had to make sure to do in practice. I think people took the live comment to mean they haven't practiced live tackling like at all. And I think what he means is once the season starts, you aren't live tackling. I wanted to get kind of your view on what he meant there.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I think whatever. I don't want to I don't want to insult people that, because if they don't know, they don't know. But that's like, you don't tackle live very often at all in practice, even at camp. Like, there's times for it where they have scrimmages and they do things, or they have periods where they do it. But you don't do it that much because you don't want to get guys hurt. And it is very intentional. It is very intentional to not do that ever. And it's the same for everyone. Like, I would say Notre Dame, they probably tackle live more than most places.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't call that like, I don't know if their missed tackles had anything to do with them not tackling live enough in camp or in preparation for it. I think there were other kind of factors, for it. But I don't think that's for anyone who understands kind of like, what live and the difference between thud. Thud is very like, you're wrapping up. Like, you are wrapping up. You're just not finishing a guy. And there's also just some guys who are just straight up better tacklers. Like, that is something I think that is one thing that some guys can get better at it, but who you kind of are before, if someone has issues tackling, in high school, a lot of that usually carries over into college, and that can change a lot. So, or that can't change a lot. Like that's it's going to be fairly the same. And I don't know. I don't think, like, to me, the tackling, like, yes, it was concerning that there were the people that did miss tackles. So, like, Drake Bowen had 5 missed tackles all of last year, according to PFF, 3 in that game. You don't see that. Like, that is not something. And I thought he played a little bit like out of control because he was a little bit late to things in that game. I have a feeling they're going to correct that in this game, and some of the ways that they kind of play, and he plays a little bit more attacking in this game, that'll change it. But I don't know. I thought, I mean, that him talking about that didn't really register for me in the way that it would register for other people. Because it's not, I think maybe people don't quite understand, like, how those, how camp works, how practice works during the season. Like, there's some teams that don't practice, they might not even use the bye week to even tackle any kind of live. Right. And, they did obviously get a chance to tackle live, what he said too. So, I mean, that's probably a good thing. And nobody got hurt from it. Yeah.
I did add the context of kind of what Notre Dame did last year against A&M. Last year, they missed 11 tackles in that game. Against Miami, they had 12, right? So one extra missed tackle isn't statistically significant. And then I think you put out the nice stat, or the good stat, that Texas A&M missed 19 tackles against UTSA. So, like, that's a significant jump, right?
Yeah.
Like, but the difference between like 19 and 12 is fairly high and consistent. I think Marcus Freeman noted in his at the start of his comments that, like, they weren't in space, and that's mostly true, right? Like, I think there were a couple missed tackles in space, but mostly it was inside the box. And I think there were some missed tackles where, especially on those runs where the D tackles got kind of washed down, and then the running backs got a full head of steam through the hole.
Yeah.
And there were a couple where Drake Bowen just kind of lunging. And I think that's kind of the same play where Adon Schuler came up late and he tried to make a play and he missed the tackle there, which resulted in Miami's biggest run of 15, which is something I want to get to as well. Because usually when you have big concerns about the defense, it's because you gave up explosives. And Notre Dame didn't do that against Miami, especially against a team that wants to be explosive too. So that's interesting. I want to get to those comments in just 1 second. I think, when you do this job, you kind of know when a coach says something, when it's going to be like, oh, that's going to be a thing. when he talked about the tackling, especially the live tackling, I was like, ooh, that's gonna trigger people. And the reason I think is because it's the overall context of Notre Dame got out physicaled. You play the opener, you get out physicaled, and you mention tackling. People are going to jump on that, right? Like they're going to make that connection between you got out physicaled in the game and then you miss some tackles, right? So we'll see if there's an improvement against Texas A&M on that front. So and because last year it was 11 missed tackles against A&M, then it was like 5, 4, 6, 8. Like they hardly ever had double-digit missed tackles for the rest of the year. So we'll see if that wants to be a thing here. I want to bring up a question here. Someone asked about the secondary, and then there was a question about. So Byron Boyce said, Greg, I always like your comments on Notre Dame secondary. How do you think Notre Dame will do in game 2 with a bye to improve? And then there was another comment about the nickel. But Jamie, that we can kind of talk about Texas A&M here. I don't know that Notre Dame's secondary was a liability per se against Miami, because a lot of the damage that Miami did was against the zone, right? So, like, I think we talked about this a little bit on Power Hour yesterday. They need to get better at disguising their coverages. I think that would really help the secondary. I didn't think they really got exposed in man. Again, they had a bad moment with Carson Hobbs giving up the touchdown, but he definitely thinks he has help there and should get some help from someone, right? I don't know who it was, but he definitely expects to have help there. And kind of the same thing on Leonard Moore getting beat. Like, he got beat and he bit on the double move, but he does have a safety over the top there. So that's kind of another one where it's like you got beat in man, but I don't see that as a huge liability. But Texas A&M they've got some explosive guys at wide receiver this week. So it's going to be a challenge for Notre Dame. So kind of how do you take that question of like improvements in the secondary after the bye against the particular opponent that Texas A&M is?
I mean, I think it's a good question, because I think if you're going to point to like in the secondary and like, well, the secondary wasn't good enough, you could say, yeah, they weren't, but those examples that you gave, like both the touchdowns were plays that, like, that safety there last year, the safety's there making the play.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. Right. So, and that's the whole point of having the safety there. It's why it's not cover 0. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that kind of adds the context to it. Like if and I know too, I understand with Carson Hobbs, there was like a lot of, he gave up what he gave up. Like, those numbers, they exist, whatever. Probably didn't play as bad as that numbers.
I think he actually played well, to be honest. Like I after watching the game back, like, he is one where I thought kind of in the moment, like, this makes me nervous. Over the course of it, I thought he was very sticky in coverage. I thought he had
on the whip route. Like, that was like Christian Gray got beat on the whip route later.
And not just that, but Leonard Moore on the other side is also not in a good position. They just didn't throw to him. Like, yes. Notre Dame got on the whip routes. Like, they just did. Miami got him. That's full stop.
And I mean, and in that case too, I'm like, first of all, I think when you go and that happens, it doesn't even matter if like A&M, that is something that they're going to run. They're going to run a lot of those. Yeah. You're going to see that you add that in because you assume that Texas A&M is going to run those.
Yeah.
In this game, right? So they're going to run it with Craver. They're going to run it with Concepcion. Like, that is going to be a thing. Like, so they'll be more prepared for it, this week. And that's another thing. I do think it's like one of these things where A&M specifically has not the biggest guys, and Freeman mentioned it. They're smaller than they were, but they're faster, right? Like, Craver and Concepcion really like could be vertical guys.
Yeah.
And they want to throw it down, or throw it deep, right? That is one thing that I think if you're looking at the DBs in this game, yeah, you have to have that covered and be in great position and all that too. But if they're going to throw it deep more, you got to get pressure. You have to get pressure. And I know it's going to be like, well, you got to get pressure for it. It's like, if he's holding the ball longer, which he does hold the ball longer than Beck, you got to get home. You got to hit home. And that's one of those things, right? That really ultimately matters.
Yeah. John Imperial says, feels like Jordan Clark is a bigger loss than most may have thought. It is. I do think about the nickel position different because it's a rotation. And I feel like it's going to be a rotation. And there's just something to be said about, you have Thomas Harper, who was seasoned, right? He was a fifth-year guy, played Oklahoma State, played a ton of snaps. And then you have Jordan Clark, who was seasoned at Arizona State. And they were plug and play. They're always in there unless there's something wrong with them, right? And now you've got Devontae Smith, who is seasoned, played for Alabama, but they're rotating him. And like Carson Hobbs I think he's a talented player. And after watching what I saw against Miami, he's going to be a good player for Notre Dame. And I imagine that they want him to be the nickel for the next like 2 years. Because why else would they be doing this? You know what I mean? Like because they don't even play him to the field, which to me is like, you are a nickel, right? Like you are going to be Notre Dame's nickel for the next 2 seasons. And everyone else is you're not a corner. You know, you can play corner if we need it, but you're our nickel guy. And I feel good about his future. I don't think it's reasonable to expect that his level at this point, given his inexperience, is going to be as high as it was with Jordan Clark and Thomas Harper. I just don't think it's a reasonable expectation. And he's getting half the snaps. Or not half, because it was 37-21, but you know what I mean? Like at least a third of the snaps. So I do feel a little bit unsure about the nickel position in a way that we haven't in the last 2 years with Harper and Clark. And I think that matters, especially, again, Concepcion is a guy in the slot. Like he can do some real damage.
Well, they actually haven't been playing him in the slot. They've been playing Craver there, which is different from. And he can fly, right? Like he's like a 2-2 guy, right? Like a 2-2 Atwell. Yeah. He can go, right? So, but also, dude, they're not going to let, like, I don't care if it's Hobbs or Smith. I don't think they're going to do a lot where they're not very aware of that vertical threat.
Oh, 100%.
You know, so like, not to say those guys will be in man sometimes, but I think there's going to be, they're going to be smart about, like, if those guys have to carry those guys vertically. Like, I just think that's, you know, one thing that what they'll do in this game. I mean, Commander Luke says Carson Hobbs. First of all, his name starts with a K. So, but Carson Hobbs doesn't need to play the rest of the year. He's not capable. It's literally the first game of the year. Like, we don't need to be saying that.
I just disagree. Kind of yeah, I just disagree.
We don't need to be saying that. And like, there's things too. It's just like how people, I really, that kind of comment and whatever. And I don't even mean to just like single out him, but I see that all the time of like, well, now this guy sucks. It's like, because that guy had a bad game. It's like, how about we just let it play out to the next game? Hey. And if, you know what, guess what? If he gets cooked in this game, like on one play, he won't play and it'll be Smith the rest of the time. I mean, you definitely felt it was more comfortable having Clark there that whole time, or Bracey and, you know, Harper there. And that was that guy that you could count on. Certainly. At the same time, I don't know if it's too early to say whether or not like that is going to be, man, nickel's going to be a problem for them this year. Especially because if you look at, you know, Smith, he played pretty good, you know, and I would say that
there's nothing red flaggy about the way that he played.
So I think if he is just so much better and Hobbs is not, whatever, that's what will happen. he will end up playing most of those reps. And that's just the way it's going to work out. It's just different. It's just everything changes. It's like everyone views the defense differently because of how they performed in the first game compared to how they performed in the last game or the first game last year. And basically how they perform this week is going to determine how people view them the rest of the year. That's just fairly unfair. That's going to happen. That is going to happen where people just say, like, if the defense isn't up to whatever, it really doesn't matter if they get up to a certain level, later on, because of this game, like, and who they're playing, they'll view it in a certain way. And that's just a fact.
Yeah. Like, look, if someone has the opinion, then it's their opinion. I just disagree. I watched the game and I watched the game and I thought I saw a good football player there. That was my analysis. The other games will happen, and then I can either change my analysis or continue to think that. That's just what I think.
Just to add to that too, I think one thing we've definitely seen with Mike Mickens, he doesn't play anyone he doesn't trust.
Right.
Like, he did not force Hobbs did not play last year when Moore did. Like, and they could have used the depth.
Yeah.
They didn't play Zachary or Golden in that game because they were like, Zachary came in the one play after Gray got hurt. So if that'll be interesting to see actually too, if like one of those guys during the bye week earned enough trust to actually play in this game. Because I just don't think you can go. You don't want to go into these things where, okay, well, these first two games, man, we really need to win this game. So Gray and Moore never leave the field. And I mean, I understand that way of thinking because there's obviously a drop off when you put somebody else in. But I'm thinking about that. And if you're thinking about they win this game and they win the rest of the way and they go to the CFP, it's like, so you're going to get to that point where is it just going to be those guys in those games again? Because that's how they can wear down again. Like, you want to have, you got to find at least one other corner that you can trust to play at some point. I think that's important. Also, good thing to remember that Leonard Moore didn't play in that first game. Was not someone they trusted. I mean, by the middle of the season, they're like, oh crap, like this guy's amazing. So it can happen.
That's again is why I'm very surprised that Carson Hobbs is not that third corner and he's not to the field because he's practiced there. It's not like he's never practiced at the field corner spot. He's played there before in games. And so like they got in a situation where Christian Gray got hurt. They would rather play Carson Hobbs at nickel and Mark Zachary at the field when it's like, well, why don't you just put Hobbs who you want to play? That to me, I don't think like that's been given enough conversation. You want to play Carson Hobbs. Like you are going to play him. He is part of the game plan every single week. You don't really want to play Mark Zachary, which understandable. He's a freshman, right? It's the first game. Put Carson Hobbs to the field and put Devontae Smith at the nickel. Those are guys you want to play. That was kind of a weird move. Whatever, we can move on from it. But the end of like the bigger picture is you are right. Like they do need to figure out, like it can't just be Moore and Gray because we saw how that hurt, especially Christian Gray last year. He broke down. Thank you for the super chat, Eric Fasano. How would you scheme up the defense this week versus Marcel Reed? Zone to mitigate threat of long quarterback runs, maybe, or bring man pressure, or man bring pressure and believe can contain him. Nuanced combination.
I think you have to do a combination of it, really, because it's one of these things where you still have to play man because they're good at playing man, right? Like they have guys who were good in man, and it's your identity. But yes, there is the threat of him as a runner, and everybody knows when you're playing man, your back is turned to the quarterback. Bigger runs can happen. So you have to be smart about when you do that. If you're going to do that and you're going to play man, then you might have to spy. You might have to, rush 3 and use one of those guys to spy on third down or something like that. Like that's something that might be the case. Or and you do like other kinds of zone pressures, right? Where maybe that's the way to combat it too. He scrambles a lot. Like that is definitely a thing that they're going to have to worry about in the game. He's going to get some first downs. You just don't want to give up too many of them, right? You just don't want to give up too many of them. And you don't want it to be like the reason why when you see like Notre Dame's playing Purdue and the plumber kid, he gets like a 30-yard run. It's like the guy never runs. So no one is expecting that at all. It's different when it's this kind of thing. In order for him to get that, or a Taylon Green or whatever, one of those guys to get that means that guy has to break tackles to do that. Like he has to make guys miss because they're going to be ready for it. Right. So it is one of those things. Like I thought about that, like as in the scouting report, to be like, well, that was, maybe the key for Notre Dame's defense. And I mean, I do think it's important. But I don't think that's like ultimately, like I would be surprised if they let that be the thing that, dominated the game, that would turn the game for A&M was his running.
It's just it's low hanging fruit. Like it's A1. Yeah. Don't let him do that.
Yes. Right. And I think, what's going to be interesting too, is like the zone read stuff, which he did a really great job of when, like, if you watch like the LSU game last year, like that was, huge for them. That's going to be interesting to kind of like combat that. Cause I always think that's so hard. That is really, really hard. Cause you have to be, it's option football, right? You have to play so disciplined there. And it's why like every NFL team has troubles with anyone who runs zone read, because you just very rarely see it. And Lamar is a special athlete and he makes like 4 guys miss on a given play or whatever. But also there's like no other teams that run that zone read like Baltimore runs that zone read. So it's really hard to prepare for. I mean, obviously you see it a lot more in college than you do in the NFL.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate John Harbaugh once again for not going with the zone read when they needed one first down to win.
I don't know why. I thought that was the call.
I would like to congratulate him on that. Way to go. Okay, you've got your super weapon, and you kept it in your pocket when the game was on the line. I'm not happy, Jamie. I was very upset. I was very upset. Jason said, "Ooh, sorry." Jason says, how many points needed to win? Do you like the over in this game?
I don't know. What is the total?
I think it's 49. I want to say. I could check. But just generally speaking, I don't know. Like, do you like the generally? Do you think it's going to be low scoring?
Jeez, I haven't even really thought about the prediction yet of what number I'm thinking about. I mean, I guess I would lean slightly over, but not more. One, because
49.5.
Yeah. I would lean over because A&M, big plays is still a thing with them, and tackling is still a thing with them that could be there. And I think, Notre Dame offense has a chance to kind of like break out a little bit because of that. And it might just be like a bad matchup with like Notre Dame's backs versus their safeties kind of thing in that way. So, and then A&M, I think they're just going to get some play. It's crazy. Last year, 0 explosives, 0 plays over 20 yards for A&M in the game. I mean, I think that's highly doubtful. Yeah, that's not a word. Doubtly, I just made it up. It's highly doubtful that you're going to see that in this game. They're going to get something. You just don't want it to be a 70 house call, a 70-yard house call, or like a, give up a big punt return to Concepcion or something like that.
I think it's going to be kind of high scoring. I don't know that it'll be a shootout. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I just think it's going to be a little bit more open than it was last year. Because I don't think A&M's defense is that good. And I just think they're going to be able to hit some big plays. I just do. I don't know why. Notre Dame didn't, like I said, they didn't against Miami. I just feel like it's going to be a wide open kind of game. And so we'll see. I have a score in mind. We'll get to it on Thursday, but that's kind of where I'm at. Offensive line, Marcus Freeman mentioned that Gerby Lambert and Sullivan Absher are still kind of a slack. Did they release a depth chart? Did I miss that?
The Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. There was like basically no changes. It was.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it get posted, but Sullivan Absher and Gerby Lambert, it was still a slash either or situation. Although we did say that might not be the case over the weekend. So we'll have to see on that. I think the offensive line, we talked about it a little bit. I want to see more duo. I think that's their strength when they're pulling around. I don't think that's what they need. I want to see more duo. I want to see more straight ahead blocking, double teams. Let your running backs pick their hole, and let's go. I think that's the way to go. What do you think, Jamie?
I think that is the way to go. I think that is actually the key for Notre Dame to run at them more than, try to, scheme it up. I don't think that they are quite, well, I know they're not quite the same as they were up front. Like they still have a good defensive line.
Right.
It's a good defensive line. I don't want to, get it twisted. They have a good defensive line, but like Cassius Hell, who is like a dynamic pass rusher, he's not a great run defender. It's not the same running at him as it is, Shamar Stewart and Turner and Scorden, right? Like those guys are different. And then they have guys who are good up front, but I wouldn't say like the guys that they got in the portal, or the guys that they have like who are developed from within that were high profile guys. I don't know if they have true game wreckers, at least versus the run. Like they don't have that there, quite as much. And their starting backers are good. But I think you've even seen like Torian York is a very good running back or linebacker. He whiffed, on Jadarian Price when he's in space too. It's like getting those guys in space, make those guys make tackles, make those safeties make tackles. It's a problem. They that's a reason why they have 19 missed tackles. The safeties have been bad tacklers. Like some of the worst tacklers, in Power 4, those guys, like they're not consistent. So they can come up, they're like physically, these guys have all those traits that you look for, but it's like, if it's not consistent, that is the thing that is actually probably the most shocking thing about Elko's defense is that they're not, those guys aren't better. And
well, like a fundamental thing like tackling. I mean,
well, and I would just say even just like fundamental, you see like some busts and stuff. It's like he's a safeties coach. Like it's just something that you just. I mean, he got Nick Coleman to play pretty good. Like and I don't even mean it as a shot at Nick Coleman. I'm just saying like he's not an NFL guy. Like Nick Coleman before when guys were Nick Coleman was a corner, moved to safety, and went there in like year one and became a starter and was like making plays against Georgia. Like, and I credit a lot of that to Mike Elko, right? So, and obviously he's a head coach now. He's not coaching the position the same way that he was, but I don't know. You don't expect to see that. You expect to see just a little bit higher standard there. And they just haven't quite lived up to that.
I'm going to be talking about Nick Coleman against Georgia till I'm 104. It's great. It's one of the great underrated safety games in modern era. I mean, he played such a good football game, and he deserved better than that. And I was, young Greg, young for what I am now, but I was so proud of him because he was not good. Like he was not a useful football player prior to that, and there was no kind of reason to believe that he would be a useful football player. And in 2017, he wasn't like a playmaker, right? He didn't come up with the picks or anything like that, but like the way that he played in that game is just like the tackling, the clutch plays. It was a big like third down, fourth down stop there against like Nick Chubb. Like it's not like he did this against like nobody. Like Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs, and in the league when he's not injured, right? And he's doing that. So look, I full credit to Nick Coleman in the way that he was kind of able to reinvent his game with Mike Elko there. You can reinvent your fitness goals, Jamie. You can reinvent the way that you go about achieving your fitness and your athleticism with a sport that isn't as impactful as some of the other ones out there, basketball, football, things of that nature. You can do that with pickleball, Jamie. And you can go to H2 Pickleball, founded by alum Todd Hill. He's teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howells, top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans to Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free, and members will have access to special pickleball events and discounts. The first event will be a tournament before the Purdue game with medal rounds played on campus. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Rockne Athletics Fund to support Notre Dame student athletes. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. And be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana. We were watching, Jason Z says, any Caleb Williams jokes dropped last night? It's interesting, speaking of that football game. So I'm watching the game, and, I was watching the game, and they hit the touchdown to Aaron Jones on that little like option route up the seam to or up the sideline against the linebacker. And it made me think about the way Notre Dame got some matchups for Jeremiyah Love. I'm going to put this on screen. And first of all, that like route is available to Notre Dame. Just put it here. So you got Jeremiyah Love here, right? You're going to get, they're in man coverage. He's in man against this linebacker. They're going to clear. And this is what you want. He gets out here. Now, look, these receivers are clearing out. And when this ball comes, he's got a ton of space, right? Like if he is able to evade this defender, he's got all this space, back's turned. We got a safety here. He's not in the play. Like this is the type of thing that Notre Dame wants. Now, what the Packers did in this is, first of all, they didn't have this receiver here. Let's say he runs a crosser. This receiver runs a post and gets him out of here and occupies this safety. So basically what they did is instead of breaking out, he makes a little break here. It's like you mentioned, press him forward, make him turn his hips, and then get outside and create a little bit more space. But what he does is stutter and then up the sideline. That's the type of thing that Notre Dame needs. Like I am not a huge fan of the first series when they put him in the slot and it's like, run a deep out, because like that wasn't the greatest route either, and like that's not what he is. He has
not
back.
Been a good route runner, and I would argue out of the running backs, I'm just honestly when you watch him in practice, I'm not saying he can't be a good route runner, but if you watch like the backs in practice, he might be the worst out of it. And I don't even mean that as a shot at him. I'm just saying like Notre Dame actually has some guys who like Nolan James and Aeneas Williams and stuff. Like, first of all, both those guys have played some receiver. They're much better route runners than Love. And that is one of those things too. You understand, like, you got to press that guy there, and so it's not the greatest route. And like that out was not a great route either, but even just looking back on that too, and it just shows how like, this is one thing that I want to see if we're talking about CJ Carr in this game, because I think one of the things that's probably he's best at is, like you would say, accuracy. He's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
if that ball's outside there, he does, even with the poor route, he has room to turn that up, and it is going.
It's an explosive. Like he could score. Like that is one where he could turn it upfield and like literally outrun the safety.
Yeah.
I mean that is the type of athlete that Jeremiyah Love is. Like it's a big little thing where it's like you throw it and he has to turn.
You throw it, he has to turn, everything. And it's like he's not gonna. That gives that backer space to catch up, and that's that. And and it looks like it. But this is also too when you see, like, if you saw that during the game, you're just watching TV copy, you're just like, man, that's a great job by the backer. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Well, you see all 22, and you're like, no, that's a poor throw. He shouldn't press it. Like all of these other pieces of it that you can see. And, also it's the thing too, like we talked about this off the air, but like, you see that. And if you see that same kind of look from like A&M, that's also something like pre-snap that you say, I'm throwing this slant to, Malachi Fields, right? Like, so,
Fields, yeah.
And that is one of those things too that you wouldn't expect from a first game from Carr. And I don't even know if you could really expect in the second game. But at some point, that's what you want to see from Notre Dame's quarterback, is they know that, like, hey, that throw that was supposed to be, primary option on this, it's like, I'm seeing this pre-snap. And if this comes out how I think it's going to come out, I'm hitting that slant and it's go time. Right. So, and that's one of those things too, where you don't have to throw a deep ball. It just becomes explosive because it's schemed up that way. Right. Yeah. And really, if you think about that, people talk about, Mike Denbrock didn't do a good enough job of this or whatever, you're fair enough, whatever. There's things you can be, critical of them. But like that play is set up to be a big play.
Yeah. That's green light. Like we've got one-on-one, like single high against either Jeremiyah Love or Malachi Fields, and they're running away from defenders. It's got to be a huge play. It just does. And instead it's a 2-yard gain, and then you don't really get the look again, right? Like those are the kind of the opportunities. And I don't want people to get it twisted. It's not anyone's fault, right? Like it's not a perfect pass and it's not a perfect route. And so it is what it is, right? Like it missed opportunity for Notre Dame, but like those are the things that you want to see. And I want to see Jeremiyah Love like doing the running back routes, like those little wheels or those little option routes against the linebacker where it's like, look, man, I don't need you to be Jaden Greathouse. That's not what we need. I just need you to do the running back thing and get into space and make magic happen like he can. Jason Z's asking about wide receiver run blocking on the outside on short screens. Like we didn't think it was great.
Not good enough.
It was not. Yeah, it was not good enough. And that's one of those things too, where it's like, that's not a scheme thing. No, it's really just effort. And that was something. And speaking of that, what did you make of Marcus Freeman? Because I'm not really sure what he meant by this. This is one of those comments. I think he said it and it didn't really make sense in the moment. He said the team that plays hardest for longest wins. And I was like, is he saying the team didn't play hard enough in the last game? He didn't really make sense with it. What do you think he meant by that? I don't mean it in a nefarious way, but like, what do you think he was trying to get at with trying to say? Because he did make the point, like in our last defensive series, we essentially failed, right? They went and got points. In Notre Dame's last offensive series, they didn't go and get points. Like, what did you kind of make of that?
I think that it could be, that just could be like a coaching, saying that was, that he's passed on, that he's always going to use. So he might not have meant anything specifically about it, but like, I think if you were going to take like a parallel between, the end of that game was very similar to the end of the Northern Illinois game in a lot of ways, where it's like, defense, if you get a stop here, then we get a chance to go up and it's tie game and we get to score. Yeah. Also, too, offense, you still got a chance here, and you didn't do it. So basically, the last 2 drives of the game, they did all that work to get it tied again. And from basically the point that it was 21-7 on, outside of the one, turnover and the field goal that they kicked, Notre Dame from that stretch to that point, like a quarter and a half or whatever, controlled that portion of the game. It's just that Miami won the part at the end. They played, I don't want to say necessarily played harder, but they played better at the end when it mattered. And that was ultimately the difference. It's kind of like, it's not that different from what happened in the Penn State game, which is also a similar situation where it's like Penn State had a chance to go down and score and win the game. Notre Dame turns it over. They get a chance to kick the field goal, and it's done. And then the defense finishes it, right? So extremely similar situations. And that is mostly in close game. That's all like how almost every NFL game goes, to be honest. Because every NFL game is like, there's very few blowouts in the NFL, which is why if you look at like spreads, it's always like 3.5, whatever, rather than in college football when it's like, 14 or something, when it's just because there's such a discrepancy. But there's so many NFL games that come down to like the last 2 drives of the game.
Yeah.
And it was a chance where like Notre Dame could have come up and been like, well, Christian Gray makes the play to, win the USC game, or win the Penn State game, or they don't. Or A&M last year. Pretty similar, right? And it might be what it comes down to again in this game, right? Like obviously the spread is 6.5 for this game. I did know the spread was 6.5, which I think seems pretty fair. But that also means it's a 1-score game. Like, so if Notre Dame is up by 7, much like could it be like the Louisville game last year?
Yeah.
Well, you got to finish.
Yeah.
You got to finish, and that's what it really comes down to.
M. Moore says, are we sure Marcel Reed and Trey Zuhn are even 100%? I think this has a lot to do with the line, what it is. Because I think it's ambiguous to me.
I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to, and thanks, M. Moore, for asking this question, because this is a super important question for the game.
Yeah.
One, do I think Reed, I think 100% will play. Like, first of all, he said,
I think
said yesterday.
I think they're both going to play. So there's that. But we're having a different conversation, whether or not they'll play and whether or not they're 100%.
Okay. Here's my thing with, first of all, he said, oh, let me just get it off the thing. Before anyone asked, was Reed's going to play. Didn't say anything about Zuhn. He said he could have went back in the game there. He didn't return to the sidelines after his injury. Anyone who saw it, and I saw it because I was actually watching the game when it happened, he got rolled up on. I don't know who knows to the extent of what it is. You get rolled up on like that, it's probably a sprain at the very least, right? I'm not saying he tore his knee. I don't think that. I'm just and maybe he would have come and tried to come back and play in this game. I have a feeling he is not going to practice all week at the very least. He'll walk through and all that kind of stuff. And, I don't know, they'll shoot him up or do whatever. He'll try to gut it out. But and maybe he goes in the warmups and it's like not like Christian Gray last year.
It's like Christian Gray against Louisville. Yeah. Yeah.
Or same thing with Jarrett Patterson against Ohio State in 2022, right? Warmed up, whatever. No. Right? Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah. Michael Hanson's high ankle sprain. You can play. It's different. Like,
it's not good. Like, it's just not good. You can't anchor. You can't, like, you could put on a big brace or whatever. It's just like you're a tackle too. Like, you're in space. It'd be one thing if you're a guard or a center, but like you're a tackle, man. Like, you got to be.
Yes. And here's the other thing. they are in a very similar situation. Obviously, everybody knows, like, losing Charles Jagasaw, it is a drop off. You have playing two guys that have never started or played really, and they had to play in that Miami game, and both those guys were not anything close to what you would have got out of Jagasaw in that game. Obviously, it's a big deal. So your line is going to suffer from that. Also, too, if like we talked about with, he would have filled in at left tackle if in that case or whatever, or if they really did want to bench Knapp, he would be the guy. Like, there's all of that, right? So it is a big deal because also they don't have Rocco Spindler and they don't have Coogan or whatever. They don't have as much of a security blanket as they had last year because those guys left. A&M is extreme, and the reason why I bring those up, not to be like, man, oh, they should have kept those guys. I'm just telling you because the same thing happened at A&M. They have guys. I don't want to say they're great players. They're not as good as the guys who started or who are starting for them now, but they had starting experience, and those guys left. Like, one of those guys is starting for Alabama right now. You know what I mean? Like, they have guys that have played in the SEC, have experience. They'd be better options than the guys that they have as the next guy now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And Ruben Fothery he would have been the third tackle. Might have even started. Has starting experience. He's played like, hold on, let me just double check what his thing is. Over 1,700 snaps in his career, right? And he's been a multi-year starter, played right tackle, whatever. So they could do a lot of different things there where it's like, well, maybe they move Fothery over to left tackle. Maybe they move Crowner to left tackle. He's the right tackle right now. They don't have those options now because Fothery's out. He's out. Like, he hurt his knee. He's supposed to be out for a while. So I don't know when he's going to be back or whatever, but then you're playing a guy who the guy who played him for this game. And I don't know, he might end up being a stud or whatever, like Robert Borden. He might suck, like, or he might end up being awesome, but just not now, because this would be his first game on the road, and they're doing stuff that he's never experienced and whatever. And I thought, I watched him only in that game. That's the only time that I've really seen him. He played 10 snaps in 2024, so it's not like there's a ton of film. Right. I just thought he was a guy who was like pad level a little high, wasn't super heavy at the point of attack. Stiffer. Definitely not Trey Zuhn. I'm a 4-year starter good. Yeah. So that. And so if Zuhn plays, he's not going to be the best Zuhn. And now that guy you have to say, like, well, he's got to block Patello, and he's got to block Boubacar, or, he's got to block Young. And obviously those guys have to get the job done or whatever. But that's different where you could trust that guy a lot more than whoever that is. Yeah. So, man, I would put him, if Reed, you take the quarterback out of it because he's obviously super valuable. Him and Le'Veon Moss, the running back, the two most valuable guys on their offense. So you lose him. Also a guy who can, like, if someone was, they'd worked him at center, he might have been able to play center if they were having problems. They want to shift around. So, like, he's extremely valuable guy. That's a big, big loss if, one, he plays and he's not close to, let's say he's not close to 100%. Like, he's like, I don't know, 60% or whatever he is because he's in there. Or he doesn't play, or he tries to play and he can't. It's a huge loss. It is a huge, huge loss. So they're not in a position where, they have somebody just waiting in the wings that is a guaranteed guy. And it's very similar where their O-line was hyped up and it's like they're this or that. If you lose your best guy, he's their best player up front, it's a big deal.
You know how Mike always says, like, watch what they do, not what they say?
Yeah.
not coming back to the sideline to me is something.
It's red flaggy.
It's red flag. You always go back to the sideline.
Yeah.
Like if you can, you do. That doesn't mean they're going to play you.
He was probably
right?
in a boot, and that's why he didn't go back or was on crutches or something.
Right. Like, yeah, like that's not a thing, you know? And like, if you're on crutches, then you're not healthy, right? Maybe he'll play. Maybe he'll try to play or whatever it might be. Maybe they'll shoot him up. But it's just like,
hey, band commander Luke. I just see that language in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's unacceptable. Unacceptable. We're not doing that. There's a certain amount of decorum that you got to show on like the language. You have your opinions. The language is not acceptable.
Yeah, opinions are fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just think that the thing is like, I don't want to like, cause in coach speak, right? Elko is not really a truth teller, you know, that just no. Like, it is the way it is. The fact that you come out and you say first thing, like Marcel Reed's going to play, it tells me like you want to control how that comes out too, which is kind of like, again, that's like an action. Those aren't words. It's an action. And so like, I think that's kind of like why the line is what it is. Like, I think given that Notre Dame lost, given that Texas A&M has looked pretty good on offense, the quarterback has looked good. Like anytime the quarterback, I think, looks good, regardless of who it's against, it's just like that they're going to gravitate towards that. And the fact that Notre Dame already lost, it's 6.5. It makes me think like the bettors are unclear about what happened. So, yeah.
I mean, we should add the caveat too that, you know, there was obviously a lot of questions about Jeremiyah Love, you know, heading into Indiana, and then he took 198 to the crib. So we'll see. But there was also a bigger gap between that game and then when he got hurt. And also, like, it's different, you know, playing the next week and then playing up front and a guy not coming back to the sideline.
Not coming back to the sideline.
Yeah.
And plus, like, he's not what's the offensive line version of hitting one big home run and then not?
No, there is. Yeah. There isn't. It's like he stoned a guy on one good rep. It's like, because the thing is, you know, Will Campbell, he's the guy who was the top 5 pick for Patriots and he was at LSU. This is probably the best explanation of an offensive lineman and the thankless part of it. And I think this was like, maybe his coach was talking to him about this, whatever, but basically you can do a great job, you know, 9 out of 10 reps, you do perfect. But that 10th rep, you give up a sack. It's like, just because that D lineman won 1 out of 10 and he gets a sack, if that happens to him every game, he's getting paid whatever.
Yeah.
If you do that as an offensive lineman, I mean, you're getting cut. You're not starting, right? So that's the margin at offensive line, which shows just how incredible it is when you see someone like Joe Alt just be like, this guy pitched another shutout again. Like, just, it's nuts.
Yeah. So we'll monitor throughout the week the availability of Zuhn and what the status of him and Reed are. It's obviously a huge deal for the game itself. But we can end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, please hit the like, please hit subscribe, please hit the notification bell. So whenever it is, we are going live. We'll be back on Thursday with more Texas A&M talk and more, talk about Notre Dame and what they got to do to win the game. We're going to have some thoughts there. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Keep hitting and hustling.